YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with my updated NFL power rankings. This one is just before week 16. Doing this video every single Tuesday. We also got a bunch of predictions all week. Tuesday nights, straight up picks with the fellas, and then score predictions every Wednesday. Plenty more content where that came from, college football and NFL. Trying to reach that 40K subscriber goal, so please help us out by subscribing to the channel. Trying to get there by the end of the season. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. Always talking football there. And even more content on the Patreon. You can support us and gain extra content, playoff predictions, score predictions, mock drafts, all of that. One package deal update every single week. More on the Patreon and always adding more even in the off season. But to the power rankings. Not a whole bunch of huge changes this week. Here heading into week 16. Nothing real major, unfortunately, I guess. But some things to keep in mind, not predictions. They're week-by-week power rankings. Head-to-head doesn't matter all that much to me. It matters a little bit, but I'm comparing 32 teams at the end of the day, not just two. And if you see one team's movement, don't base it all off of what they just did this previous week because what's going on around them, the teams around them in the rankings, kind of affects how everything works here in the power rankings. So let's go through this real quick here. The Bengals are down. They're back down to 32. They went up for a little bit. They're back down just mainly because, another loss and, what's going on around them, who's going up. The Lions are down 3 spots. Unfortunate season for the Lions. Obviously, with Stafford getting injured, the defense kind of not really living up to expectations. Very disappointing. So they are down 3 spots the way they are currently playing. Did have a comeback going against the Bucs, but got to execute better on offense early and defense in that game. Number 30 is the Dolphins, losing a disappointing one to the Giants by a decent amount, too. Moves them back down to 30. The Giants are up 3 spots and playing like one of the worst teams in football, and they play a good game against the Eagles. They fall short, and then they play a good game against the Dolphins, get the win. So they are up 3 spots here heading into Week 16. We got the Redskins down 2 spots. They played the Eagles tough. But they still end up moving down 2 spots with another team mainly making them move down. We'll get to that team in a second, but the Raiders are down 3 spots. They may have a better record than a lot of these teams around them, but they might just be the coldest team in football right now. Losing to the Jaguars in that fashion too, not generating enough offense when you're supposed to be an offensive team. It's just all sorts of disappointing. Ice cold, move them down 3 spots. The Jags, the Jags just beat the Raiders, said I was never picking the Jags again, so that's why I picked the Raiders in that game because it seems like there's very little effort from the Jags. A lot of giving up around there, mainly on defense, but they're still able to come off a win, beat the Raiders there, and come back and a last-second win. So they are up 4 spots. Panthers remain at 25, put up somewhat of a fight against the Seahawks, even though they were playing catch-up most of the game. But, yeah, I think definitely should be better than the teams below them. So that's why they couldn't really move down below them. The Cardinals at 24, they had a big win against the Browns, an impressive win. They're up 5 spots. All these teams that are kind of in the same tier, the same boat, a win like that will boost you up that much. The Jets, very disappointing, but don't really move down. Don't really see a reason to move them down. Looking at who these other teams are below them, based on maybe their performance, maybe you'd think they would move down, but kind of put it all together. There's really no reason to move them down below those teams. And we're kind of going to repeat myself here. The Chargers, based on how they played and their performance, you'd think they should move down more. I kind of want to move them down more based on how they played. But, can you really move them below the Jets, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Jags, the Raiders? So only moving down 1 spot because what's going on below them. And the same thing applies to the Colts. They're on a losing streak. Very disappointing outing on Monday night, even though they play one of the better teams in football, based on what they've been doing, kind of want to move them down more. But can you really? Can you really move them below some of these teams that have really struggled? And the same thing applies to the Browns. They moved down 2 spots. Disappointing loss against the Cardinals. It's a big-time mess over there. It's a mess. Somehow they could still make the playoffs. They need a lot to happen. But another team that you kind of just wish that you could move them down more just because of the messy situation, but hard to move them below some of these other teams. I'm moving up 3 spots, kind of where the record really doesn't matter with the Falcons because they are playing better than all these teams that are below them recently. It's a sneaky team. You don't want to play the Falcons. We've seen them just beat the Niners. It's a good win. Sneaky team. Despite the record, they're still able to move up 3 spots up to number 19. Down 2 spots to the Broncos. I've been impressed with the Broncos. Disappointing game against the Chiefs. Number one is the Chiefs. It was in Kansas City. It was snowing a lot. No huge takeaways other than they lost the game for the Broncos there. So they don't take a major hit. Still like this team. This team could beat pretty much anybody, any given Sunday or whenever they play. Moving down 3 spots, the Bears, they did put up a fight, almost a comeback against a good Packers team, but a few teams moving up a few spots ahead of them, so they're down 3 spots. The Bears, unfortunately, now are eliminated from the playoffs. Almost a good comeback here at the end of the season. The Bears are probably the number one of the top teams I'm looking for to what they're going to do in the offseason. It's just a big mystery. Mainly, I guess, with the quarterback situation, but it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I'm excited to see that for their offseason moves, but we still got to wait for that. Eagles move up 1 spot. Yeah, they won back-to-back games in crazy fashion, I guess. Come back and win in overtime against the Giants, and then kind of back and forth against the Redskins. Got to get a last-second drive, so that's impressive. But yeah, against the 28th and 29th ranked team there, that's who they did it against. Still playing a little sloppy. They're still not proving a whole bunch, but I do move them into the top 16. A win against the Cowboys will definitely boost them, so we'll see what they got for us this week. Down 4 spots, just when you think the Rams are getting back to normal, back to being hot, they fall apart. A very, very disappointing, embarrassing loss against the Cowboys. Definitely deserving moving down 4 spots for that, but you kind of got to factor in the way they're playing recently as well, which has been really good, but most recent, not so good. That's why they moved down 4 spots. Moving down 1 spot, you can't punish the Steelers too much. They play a good game against the Buffalo Bills, a good defensive game, and still in playoff contention. Has had a very good year, the Steelers, that is, too. Offense scares the hell out of me, really. Definitely underwhelming, but still been a very good season, and you can't punish them too much for a loss like that. The Cowboys are going to move up 6 spots, though. They're streaky. Streaky in a positive way, streaky in a negative way. So let's see if it's time for that positive streak here. They play lights out. A good team, what we thought who was starting to be a good team in the Rams. The Cowboys just dominate this game. That game, a crucial game on top of it. So a win like that, in that fashion, will boost you. It will boost you quite a bit. And we see, I guess beating the Rams, who were ahead of them, and the Steelers losing, that kind of helps them boost up there. A team that's red hot right now, even though they have injuries, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Weird seeing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with number 12 next to their name, up 3 spots. They are playing lights out. The defense still improving, but it's a good thing that it's improving. A lot of young players getting better. The offense got a lot better. Jameis Winston has played a lot better, and they have their injuries. Now they add Godwin to that injury list, so we'll see how they play in a good game on Saturday against the Texans. Really looking forward to that game. But the Buccaneers have been super impressive. Another one of those teams, I mentioned it for the Bears. The Buccaneers are another one of those teams that I'm really curious and really looking forward to their offseason plan. This is a team, if they do it right, they could be a good team, real good team next year. Moving down 1 spot is the Tennessee Titans. Disappointing loss, a little sloppy, even though it ended up close against the Texans. Yeah, only moving down 1 spot, though, because, it's not a loss where you should punish them too much, but at the same time, look who's below them. Are we really going to move the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, the Eagles, who just won, ahead of the Titans? No, we're not. The Titans, don't forget, still you kind of consider have been one of the hotter teams in football. That has been slowed down now since that disappointing loss, but overall, they have been one of the hottest teams in football. You have to kind of factor that in as well. So only moving down 1 spot. Not much for the Titans there, and they definitely can get back up with their opportunities coming against the Saints and the Texans again. Speaking of the Texans, they're back up into the top 10, up 2 spots. Moved them way down after that super disappointing loss last week. And it seems like every time we move them in the top 10, move them up to a good spot, they disappoint us. It's because they've kind of been inconsistent, but it really isn't every other week. So that's why in that way, I have confidence in them. But the Bucs are a good team. It's kind of a trap game right there. But they're up 2 spots. They're up to number 10. It's just hard to trust the Texans for me, and I think for a lot of people. I think every time I move them up here, they kind of let us all down. Even though these aren't predictions, because they definitely deserve to go up here to the top 10. But they still, it's hard for them to stay up here, So we'll see if they can put it together here. Can't have one of those Broncos games show up again. Number 9, staying put, is the Patriots. They did get a win. It was a little scary early, because of the defensive turnovers and touchdowns on defense. That was the reason they won big. But this team has been disappointing lately. Looking at the body of work and the execution on the field, which matters a lot to me. I think there has been 8 better teams in football. So for that reason, the Patriots remain at number 9. A win against the Bills can definitely boost them. That's a good one to have on your resume. That can definitely boost them. The Vikings remain at 8. They get a pretty dominant win against the Chargers, a little sloppy early, but the defense finally showed out in the game. It was a dominant performance. And that was a game where some started to doubt them a little bit in that game. So it's impressive, but there's really no room to move them up. A win against the Packers on Monday night is a game that can definitely move them up because the Packers are obviously ahead of them, and that's a big-time win. Staying put at number 7 is the Bills, a big, crucial win against the Steelers. But still, there's really no room to move them up. I feel like I've been higher than most on the Bills anyways, but there's really no reason to move the top 6 down. So it was a crucial win. It was a big win. The Bills have pretty good body work this year, have been improving all year, so that's why they are within the top 8 there for me. Staying put at number 6, so not a lot of moving up here, is the Packers, and this is where it got tough. The top 6, I wanted to move around more than I did. There is some movement coming, but the Packers I almost wanted to move up because they haven't been super, super impressive recently, but they have been winning. The Bears were a hot team. That's kind of a trap game for the Packers, and they went out and finished that one off. It's just so tough to move the top 5 teams down. It's tough to move them down. The Packers are a team I'm starting to believe something new. I'm kind of thinking here. I think this is a very sneaky playoff team because people are starting to. There's a lot of people that do really believe, but there's people that kind of think they're underwhelming. They're not going to be the best playoff team, but I think they're holding a little bit back. I think these are games that they know they can win. Games like the Giants, the Redskins, the Bears. I think they're holding a little bit back. Maybe they're going to show something against the Vikings this week, but maybe it's mainly for the playoffs. I'm starting to believe that could be the case. So the Packers, I want to move up for that reason, but that's kind of assumption and prediction, so that's not what we do here. They're going to remain at 6. The Seahawks are actually going to remain at 5. That Rams loss is still sticking with me. That was kind of a bad one, but they bounced back, get a good win against the Panthers. But a little sloppy in that game, too. Let the Panthers hang around with all those turnovers, a lot of fortunate turnovers. So the Seahawks remain at 5. Really nothing going recently to make me boost them up anymore. The Chiefs are going to remain at 4. I boosted them up a lot last week. Been getting some impressive wins. They've been getting better because they've been getting healthy. That's the main reason their offense has been better. Their defense has been improving because the coaching and because guys just really starting to figure things out. Guys like Frank Clark and them switching to the 4-3 defense, getting a lot of new guys, Tyrann Mathieu in there. So they're kind of getting used to the adjustments now. The defense has gotten a lot better. And I still think that I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the year. Not necessarily my pick right now, but I think there's a solid chance they can win it. There's a very solid chance that, I could end up going back to, once playoffs start, to my original prediction. I mean, this team's an improving team. It's a scary team. And that's why they're up at number 4, despite some of these other teams might having a better record below them. At number 3, moving down one spot, this was a tough situation because losing to the Falcons, you think it's rough. It's rough. I just could not move them down any more than this. I just couldn't do it. Injuries kind of play a part, but not a huge part because everybody has injuries. Everybody has injuries. But just really going through the body of work again. I can't really move them below the Chiefs. They've been way more dominant than the Chiefs this year. The Seahawks did beat the Niners. The Niners have impressed me execution-wise and who they've played on the field much more. And still, like I said, that Rams loss has still hurt me with the Seahawks because it was in dominating fashion the other way. And then the Niners dominating the Packers, that kind of plays a little part, even though, head-to-head doesn't matter a whole bunch. I just think the body of work from the Niners, just 100% better than the other teams. Like, it's clear. If it's close, that loss to the Falcons could be ugly one, which it is ugly one, but even though they kept it close, they could have won the game. If they didn't easily have the better execution body of work, with that loss, they definitely would have moved down more, but because they do have that execution of body of work that I think has easily been better than those other teams, they only moved down one spot. They remain at number 3, and the Saints are up to number 1, hopping over the Niners' dominant performance on Monday night. Even though they just lost to the Niners a week ago, tight game that could go either way any given time they play, and then having that dominating performance against the Colts and the Niners coming off that loss against the Falcons, that would be enough to switch those. There's no reason to move the Ravens down, even though the Saints have been super impressive, and you may consider them at the end of the day the best team in football. I can understand that. You can argue that. But there's no reason to move the Ravens down. They have been the best team in football. They're hotter than any team in football. It's a dominating team. I know they played the Jets too, but it's just still such a mind-blowing performance. It really is, because I don't know if any other team could, just make that type of presence, play like that. It's just both sides of the ball improving every single game. You think Lamar's hurt too, and he plays at that level, so pretty wild there. Ravens remain at number 1 though. So those are my rankings for this week. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Always looking forward to see that. Straight up picks Tuesday nights, late nights, Tuesday nights with the fellas of the Goat House. We got score predictions on Wednesday, junior score predictions on the Patreon on Wednesday, plenty more NFL content as well, all kinds on the channel, more to come, college football content, bowl games, college football playoff coverage. We got you covered. So please click that like button, subscribe. We're trying to reach that 40K goal. Really appreciate you if you subscribe. We even got you covered in the off season. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.